Alrighty. Let's go. All right. And right on cue, my phone is ringing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Third Time Thursday. I am your host, Monos, joined today by Mr. Fib. As always, what's going on, Fib?
What's up, partner? I just tweeted it out. We got the word out. Man,
Beautiful.
This is another huge Thursday, guys. Just enormous.
Massive Thursday, but you know what? It's all right, because we're alive, we're here. We got beautiful baby horses to talk about.
Beautiful.
And we also have an awesome guest joining us today, Mr. Gooch. What's going on, Gooch?
Yo, what's going on, guys?
What's
Chilling,
happening,
man, chilling.
brother? How are you?
Man,
I've never seen Gooch before, and I am delighted to finally see you face to face, sir.
Do I look more or less like a potato than you thought I would?
Oh, you look exactly like a potato.
Exactly. I mean, I look exactly like a potato.
Yeah, you are, dude. You. For anybody that doesn't understand, Gooch, not to super duper dox you, but he's Idaho, right? So that's where you living in Idaho, right? So at one point I called Gooch in a moment of pure inspiration the quintessential potato man. Okay, and I believe that to be true to this day. So
that stems from the fact that anytime I mention that I'm from Idaho, people immediately go to potatoes, and then I'm like, the reason I got the quintessential potato man is the fact that I grew up, like, my parents were potato farmers, and I work for a company that is like one of the largest potato suppliers, like frozen potato suppliers in the world.
yes.
So like I am about as stereotypical as it gets when it comes to like potatoes.
Hey man, I ever shared with you my my potato theory, Gooch? I think I have, haven't I? I don't know if this will offend you, but it's basically that potatoes are. I don't like a potato. Okay, like generally speaking, like to eat. Okay, but the more of the surface area that's fried, the better the potato. Okay, so it's like that. You have like a chip. It's the peak, and then you have like a French fry. It's pretty good. Tater tot, pretty good. But like a baked potato, it's not for me. I just can't get into that. So
that's fair. Baked potatoes are like C- tier for me.
Yeah, totally.
But twice baked potatoes are top tier.
Baked potatoes? I've never heard of that.
Twice baked potatoes. It's basically like you bake a potato, you hollow it out, you mash it up, throw in some cheese and butter and whatever else you want, and then you put it back in the skin, and then you bake it again with some cheese on top. So it's basically just
just like a
mashed
hash,
potatoes in a potato shell.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, honestly.
Anyway, enough about potatoes.
Maybe.
Yeah, well, apparently this is Third Time Thursday, Potato Finish Live. So we are joined, like I said, by Fib. Appreciate you putting your chest hair away this week, Fib. Last week you were getting players all riled up.
If you look closely, you can still see it, but yeah. No
problem. Is there something? Sorry. You're on my little monitor today. Shout out Doughboy in the chat. What up, MJ? Sir B-Rad's here. What's going on, buddy? Sakis is in the house. What's going on, dude?
Nice. The crew. What's up, guys?
The crew has arrived. Maybe that 5-minute intro actually helped today. We are joined by Gooch. Gooch, why don't you tell maybe those that don't know you, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, maybe what you do outside of photo finish if you want, and tell us a little about your photo finish experience, how you found the game, and how you liking it.
Yeah, so man, I work at IT outside of this job, or outside of running a virtual stable. And I got into photo finish because I was just totally degenning, and I came across the mint. So I actually minted 3 like right before it minted out. So I've been around since mint. Thanks Big Brain, who tweeted and reminded me that mint was live. So I was able to get out and get a few, but yeah, so I mean, I've been around. What is it, like over 2 years now, right?
It's like coming up on. I think it's coming up on 2 soon, like in September, I believe.
Okay, yeah. Right? So right around there. So yeah, I've been in the community for a while. I kind
Yeah.
of just started small,
Yeah.
but I knew nothing. I still don't really know anything about horse racing. Like, just it was a total degen, PFP, NFTs. Like I was getting into anything, buying anything. Fortunately, I didn't get rugged with what was it, the three-legged lizards or or whatever that came out right around the same time. So
Three-legged lizards? God, I don't remember that.
I can't remember what they are.
Venus Project.
Salamanders. It was Salamanders. Yeah.
Okay.
Salamanders minted right around the same time.
Yeah.
And I think they were like a 15 soul mint or something like that. Crazy. So
15 soul. Oh my god.
yeah.
Shoot.
Fun
Back it was like, that was like $200 a freaking soul
Oh
too, I
my
bet.
god, that is so brutal, dude.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
It was
nice.
crazy.
Cool, man. And yeah, so how big's your barn? I know you got Charlemagne. Who else you got in here? Your King Sport Racing.
Yeah.
So you got a nice little barn here.
My
any
barn.
Any standouts? Anybody you want to send to the glue factory? What are we thinking?
Oh God, yeah, I have a few that should probably be in the glue factory. So Constance is probably, I would say Constance was like my best horse, just down to the right. From there, Constance did really, really well. I was always giving, what is it, Purple Jesus juice or something like that. In chat, because every time I race this horse, I feel like I was racing up against, what is it, Gray-eyed
Peas. Yep.
Yeah, Gray-eyed Peas.
GEP. I'm right with that guy.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah. So this horse and GEP were always going at it. I got the better of him a few times, but this was probably like my most successful racer that I had. Pretty solid. I bred her with Curly this time, and they made an A-, or sorry, an S-. So that's that top one on the left.
Yep, the Constance full. Philly too. Beautiful.
Yeah, so I'm expecting that horse to turn out and be pretty solid. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, I mean, I had a few decent horses. I didn't run any of them, 30 plus times.
Oh, it's a Walter White horse, huh?
Oh yeah, sorry, I said Curly. I bred a different filly with Curly. Yeah.
So we're gonna see each other at the family picnic. I actually picked up a Walter White horse on the market. It was white, beautiful horse. I could not resist to get the. He's like what, number 5 horse overall in the PFL according to the Gap rankings. I was like, hey, you know what? Put that blood in my barn. Maybe breed it down a little bit. The A+, try to help out with some of those down there. Maybe work it back up. But yeah, man, yeah, this I love that Walter White horse. So good.
Yeah, super good. So yeah, cool, that's kind of the strategy there. I don't know how many I'll be able to manage racing, because I know in beta V1 V2, when we were able to breed, and it just got out of control. But then again, I wasn't really calculating my breeds. I was kind of just going through finding, it was all play money. So I was kind of just breeding with whoever I felt like, if I saw a horse name that sounded cool, I'd throw it out there. And I got to the point where I think I had well over 100 horses in my stable, and I just no idea what to do with all of them, but you just keep breeding.
Yeah. Now, did you breed with, Tony and Rigatoni like everybody else in the beta, or were you kind of doing your in-house stuff, trying to go like realistic? Because I went pretty much all realistic during the beta, just to know how I would work out inside my own barn going forward. And I never competed with anybody going forward from like Gen 1, Gen 2s, and, the beta. I was getting annihilated, which is why my barn is completely overhauled. But now, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I got 8 new foals going to be ready to run here in 2 months. I do have 4 syndicates behind me. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. Actually, I don't want to say it out loud because Fib's going to screw me next month. But I went 4 for 5 on fillies, man. I was not complaining. All the big, because I basically kept everything out of house this month.
Dialing that back.
Yeah, wait. No. I didn't say that. Let's just disregard that. I was like, you know what?
You need to dial mine up, Fib.
Yeah.
Oh, word. I'll give you most. Yeah, you get most.
Oh, shit. Okay, well.
Perfect. I think I went 3 for 11 with fillies.
Oh, GVG in the chat. What's up? What's up, everybody?
GVG, what's going on, GVG? Good to see you, brother. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? 4 for 5, I'll take it. And this month, I actually did not breed internally at all. I actually figured, I had a couple bucks, let me just go outside the barn and try to bring in some blood. So now, moving forward, at least I'll be able to do everything, floor price plus the fee in my own house, right? So was pretty cool. Yes, this is what we're stuck with. We got this is the Walter White horse I picked up off the market. Named him Cramden, after Honeymooners. If you guys know who Ralph Cramden is from the Honeymooners, you're probably old as hell like me. Congratulations. Yeah, good little horse. Walter White, Paige Novick. They never ran Paige, but I mean, listen, A+. It's got S- heart. I like that heart. I like the temper. So should be a well-tempered horse. Yeah, that's where I'm at. But yeah, you got a good little barn there going, Gooch. Like to see it. And again, man, thanks for taking some time hanging out with us today here on the show. We do have a race coming up at 7:20, but before that, I don't want Pib to feel neglected. Third time Thursday handicap coming up here at 7:20.
Oh, did we lose Gooch? Gooch out?
We might have lost him.
Okay, all right, yeah. He's back.
Did he remove himself?
Yeah,
did I?
I'm back. No, I clicked to sign in and it took me off the page. So.
Oh.
And we're still getting people cashing in horses. So interesting. Yeah, crazy.
Wow,
74% right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked Ian last week.
Yeah, we talked about
horribly. By the way, I went back and listened to that. I'm like, I ready to rephrase my questions better. But yeah, I mean, 74%, man. I feel like I feel like that's a pretty damn good number. I was kind of looking over the gap data, seeing how many horses we have. 5,600 total. And obviously, if you want to go to, how many left racing, I believe it's 2720.
Yeah.
I think we had like 1,300 foals now and 1,311 retired. So,
nice. Okay.
We are doing good repopulating the earth here. I think we all kind of expected, I keep calling it the 60 dark days of racing, but, I don't really think it's going to be that bad, honestly. I mean, we're going to talk about the schedule. I know Doughboy had a question about the schedule. We are going to cover that here. It's the second
we're definitely
topic
going to
up for
we'll
debate.
talk about the schedule for sure. Yes.
But before we get into the 7:20 race, maybe you can just take a little blast from the past, Fib. Over the weekend, man, we ran the first ever virtual Kentucky Derby. We all got our first glimpse at virtual Churchill Downs. Ian was on the call. You guys were hanging out.
Actually.
Oh, absolutely. I was hanging out in chat. You were in a suit, my friend. You were looking good.
Yeah, I was in a suit up top. The bottom, I was just wearing shorts. So, full disclosure. But, does it matter? I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, it was. I think it was a great race. I mean, we got a little bit rugged. We did have like a pretty awesome special guest lined up to announce it and stuff like that. But we decided to instead kind of lean into sort of more of a party angle. It was the first Derby. We are going to be leaning into a bunch of different ways to make it kind of like a more streamlined presentation. But there's kind of two elements to the Derby. It's like most of our core audience, right? Like the people that play our game, it's a very official crowd. Like I think everybody wants like a high quality broadcast, like kind of an officious stream, very horse racing oriented, analytical even, but you look at a broadcast of the actual Kentucky Derby and there's almost none of that. And so there is, again, this balance. I always talk about balance. There's the balance of like, we do want to, polish it up, of course. We also want to make it a fun viewing experience so that we can attract more people into the ecosystem, of course. So it's like, it's kind of, look for blossomings in both directions, I'd say. Come the next one, we have some awesome plans with how we're going to accomplish that. But it was a good race. Huge congrats again to Soulmate, his bright red name, rose colored name, gracing the Discord all over the place now. His eminence, fantastic. It's just, I really didn't see his horse coming for that W, but I think Chris Balthazar said that he did. He actually sort of was like, that horse was a sleeper, and he kind of like felt that it was in the cards.
Yep. Peanut butter, bananas, and carrots. Apparently, that horse was made a hell of a move.
Yeah, the king, Elvis.
The king. Hope the king lives.
Yes.
And it was a good show. It was, like I said, first of many to come. And like we've talked about it, many times over the months, right? Like, it's still not time, man. It's still just not time to go mainstream. I know it's so hard, for people to kind of swallow that pill sometimes, but
you know what? Actually, we had like a big conversation recently, and honestly, with the there's definitely things that obviously there's always going to be things to improve, always things to tighten up, but it's like when we successfully introduced breeding, and breeding's now part of the game, it's like that in a way that kind of closed the gameplay loop. So it's like it kind of is time. So we are like it's kind of time to start blowing it up a little bit. So
Yeah, I would agree. Like I said, I think we're kind of like right on the precipice. If I had to really say, narrow it down, I'd say we're right on the precipice. Because even again, I've actually been trying to convert some of my syndicates to, full-time players on their own. Actually trying to buy some out. Basically giving them some money back to, get a horse in their own barn. This way they could, manage their own stuff. For those that like it, I have some pieces of my syndicate that barely ever log in. They don't have an account, and I tell them they should make an account, run their free horse, yada yada yada. But yeah, I feel like people coming in, if they're cool with, grabbing the foal and they realize, okay, 60 days I'll be on the track, and in the meantime hang out, run some claimers, right? What we don't want to see, and I have seen this quite a bit, and I feel like it's my own fault. I need to be making more content myself. We need to start educating people on just running better races, I think. I think you see a lot of these horses, people getting horses, coming in with B horses, throwing them in like A restricted stakes races. You know what I mean? And it's nobody else's fault but their own.
The user experience, like there's a lot of things that could make it more sticky. There's a lot of onboarding that could be improved. There's too many clicks to get you between signing up and getting the dopamine of racing and winning, really. It's like there's a lot of clicks there, like just from pure marketing perspective, it's sheer numbers game. Things to tighten up. Okay, I mean, again, there's features to, but it's definitely like we're definitely gearing up towards like increasing our exposure now that we feel like that the core gameplay loop is like fairly established. I can tell you that it's definitely, we've had a little bit of a shift internally. It's like, is it going to happen instantly? No, it's not going to be an instant process, of course, but.
Well, of course. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah, and like David said, what's up, David? Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does feel a little clicky. But I was actually leaning more towards fault to the players themselves. I mean, not necessarily, the game. I feel like a lot of people, if you want to come in, not just this game, but any game, I play games with people all the time, and it's like they skip past the tutorial, they don't read anything, they just want to get in, and they want, like I said, you want the dopamine hit. Well, now you just look like a dope because, what I'm saying, you're not putting your horses in the right position to even come close to win a race. And then at that point, you might think it's the game. It's, oh, it needs more balance. It needs more of this. But if you really go back and look at the horse, the way it was ran, it was just misraced, and I'll be the first to admit it. I have half my barn was misraced. Why?
Yeah,
because I wanted to just watch him run.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but I was aware. Some people aren't aware, and then they blame the game. They blame the variance. They blame this.
That'll always happen. And it's like it is like we get to kind of like look under the hood. Like if we see somebody that's like very incredulous about their horse and the performance and stuff like that. I mean, it not in all, like because of the role system of the stats and stuff, it's like some people's horses over and underperformed what they maybe assumed from the ticket, right? So that's a given. But there are, like provided that they fit into like some of the racing meta, the proper, the kind of archetype that like the racing meta supports currently with the schedule, which by the way, we're going to be looking to improve, create more pockets where people can succeed or whatever. But like you like seeing what some people assume is their pocket and then getting to look under the hood and seeing like, oh, that's absolutely wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of funny. Like we've done it a number of times. So
yeah, and I've actually analyzed my own tickets on stream. I think Joker is a perfect example of a ticket for me because, Joker looks like a ticket that wants to run long. You know what I mean? He's got the only thing that's not a 3 on the ticket is his heart. But if you go back and look at the ticket, right, it's like, even back in the other betas, he ran long. He ran 10. But I guess on this roll, right, that early speed, that early start actually makes him a 5 furlong runner. He's actually like the 10th overall ranked gap rank runner in all the photo finish, which is actually pretty nice. And he does kick the shit out of all the horses in A horse restricted stakes. So,
nice.
There is something to that. And I feel like sometimes that high end of the start and the speed might just compensate enough to make him a sprinter when the ticket may not even look like a sprinter. Or, we've talked about it in other weeks too. I know you guys won't always tell us, if there's any hidden genetics or any hidden things like that. But if a horse does have a hidden running style, like real horse racing, you know, there could be horses that just like to run long. They have their short styles, they have their long styles. So again, I know you'll never tell us, and I'm not even trying to pry, but we do have 35 seconds before this race. So if you want to fill dead air there, go ahead.
Fill dead air. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Have you seen the poster on my wall? Is it cool? Do you like it? It's kind of cool.
I see the Gladius on your wall.
Yeah, you like my Gladius, Gooch? I'm glad that we're talking about my Gladius. It's actually a real forged Gladius that has a sharp edge that I train with in my backyard.
Oh,
so
wow.
is it race time yet, or are we?
Do you like cut fruit and stuff?
No, I just like, I literally like
start.
mess around in my backyard like the Star Wars kid, essentially.
I feel like we need video of that for sure.
Yeah, you probably would like that, wouldn't you? Yeah.
We need some Ring doorbell cam stuff. I want to see you cut. I want to see you cutting a potato with that.
Cutting a potato. Dude, I could cut 3 potatoes with that.
All right, let's send it down to the old skeleton. Horses are online. And they're racing here in the third time Thursday handicap. Captain High Top breaks well, carrying 12 pounds, and comes Cold Gin. Up for third comes Philly Zalatoris, and it's All Heart. Going to trail the pack here as they head around the opening turn in this 6 furlong, left turning affair on the turf. Track is fast and racing is good. Groove Summer Barn out there, taking the lead here on the 4 horse. That's Captain High Top. 2.59 to 1, now being trailed by All Heart, and my phone's ringing. Don't people know I'm busy? Cold Gin tries to trail up here on the outside, moves up into second, now wants to challenge the lead. All Heart still there in third. Philly Zalatoris even going to come up and move past All Heart there, but they're all chasing the new leader, Cold Gin. Cold Gin now going to move up here on the front. Philly Zalatoris even as I'm trying to text somebody back. All Heart there in third with Captain High Top as they hit the top of the turn and head for home. And it's Cold Gin tries to pull away from the pack, but hold up. Wait a minute, it's Philly Zalatoris. He's dialed in trying to catch the leader, but Cold Gin still up top by 2 as they pass the 8 pole. And you can send this one home. It's going to be Cold Gin taking home the opener here on third time Thursday over Philly Zalatoris and All Heart.
Nice.
All right. That was horrible. I was trying to multitask right there.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse, you know? It honestly could have been worse.
Man, those calls are so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Groove Summer Stables. I like that stable name. I like those silks. Very clean. Okay. Shout outs to shout outs to you for filling this race. Sponsoring this race, essentially. And may the crown reign upon you.
Oh, did you win that one, Gooch?
No, that wasn't me. No, if I would have put one of my horses in that race, it definitely would have come in last. So, although fourth place would have probably been the best finish I've had in a while.
My God,
for my horses. So
it's been.
Why are you guys rugging me lately?
It's just your time. It's just kind of like we cycle through, and you know, you get rugged, you don't get rugged.
Yeah, man, it's been bad. So we race. I kind of forgot to mention it earlier, but I also manage some of the horses for a sub-DAO of the Fracture, which is probably best known for Gods, formerly Soul Gods. There's a sub-DAO for the Bald Eves, which is a bridged faction, which is another collection from the Fracture. And Night Crew is for anyone who holds a Bald Eve. And we decided to, you know, get some horses, start racing and doing that stuff. And man, we have, I think we have 2 wins in like 24 races or something like that. It's pretty rough right now. So first horse is she got retired. She went off to the glue factory.
Oh no.
And yeah, she retired. She actually produced. That's the one that we bred with Curly.
She made the S-. Okay.
Yeah. So Baltimore in my stable, Baltimore's full, I guess. Baltimore is the horse that we had. Yeah. So we were. I love that. Yeah, we were trying to keep it along the lines of bald or not having hair, etc. So as you can see, like I shaved my head and I
Yeah, looking clean and
capitulated
mean.
and
Hell yeah.
shaved my head just for night crew. But Baltimore is on
Nice.
there.
Hey, I shaved my head too. Look,
I like it, bro. We're twins. So
actually, I
we
shaved
did
my
that.
whole body. Whoa, hey now.
Whoa,
Oh my goodness.
looking good, man.
Bitch can't say the
So-
same. It's peeking out the top of the t-shirt.
No,
but, you know.
yeah, it's like that'd be a colossal, time-consuming undertaking.
You have more hair on the top of your chest than I do on my entire head these days, and my face for sure. Jesus,
Yeah.
how do you manage that, man?
I don't know, dude. I guess I was just early. I invested in hair. I invested in hair really early, and now I'm up big. But anyway, yeah, Gooch. Like David just said, you do fantastic on social media. You really do. You're awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
And I really appreciate you bringing in, like, you heading up your sub DAO stable. I'd love to see that more from other people with cross community exposure and stuff like that. But if you guys like everybody here probably knows Gooch, but Gooch is a legend. Just to clarify. So
Yeah, and I do have post his Twitter info there, guys. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. Shout out to Senor Herbatron over on Twitch. Come on over to Kick, buddy. The water's nice and warm. But he is over on Twitch. He does have a schedule question. I think we're gonna. Do we have anything after this claiming race? Because I'm in this claiming race.
Are you? Nice.
Yeah, Sweet Feet's up for claims. I don't think anybody's gonna take them, but maybe we'll steal a pot. 736. Hey, you know what? We can just keep this on in the background. Might be a good time to maybe we could tackle the question now while we're here. Senor Herbatron wants to know, will the schedule always look like it currently does, or will there be adjustments? Doing some research before he decides to jump in. Is there a goal for breeding? Will there be a race series for different types of horses, or will it only be the Kentucky Derby? Thanks in advance.
Okay, yeah, so we can cover those starting from the top. I guess if I can remember all the parts of that, it's like it's gonna look different. It's gonna look different. We've been like, it has taken a little bit of time, but I think the way that I've been working, Chris, Richie, and I have been working on the schedule a lot over the last week, 2 weeks really, and like we're getting to the point now where I think that we're honing in on what needs to happen, like in terms of like, there are just obviously like one of the core issues with the schedule is basically that the way that the base schedule is generated is not like, it creates races kind of with like a sort of controlled randomness rather than like a menu card of races that gives full coverage. So we like working with that as the base config, like given that like a complete revamp would be less feasible than if we were to basically like do a couple of how to phrase this, like population and analytics based dynamics mixed with the necessity to generate full coverage so that there's at least kind of one race per archetype within a given period of time. So like you're guaranteed to have like basically one race that your horse can race, and ideally in the cadence of 2 days within like a certain frame of archetypes. Like if you consider what an archetype is, like with these horses, if you're tuning in and you don't know what I'm talking about when I say archetype, it's basically like a horse kind of has like a profile of all of its preferences, right? It's like, and all of its preferences, I mean, it actually goes a little bit deeper than what I'm going to describe here too, but it's like the preferences are like, it likes to turn right, it likes to run on dirt, for instance, and it likes a firm or soft, track. So like that's sort of its baseline archetype. So just out of that, there's 8 different archetypes, basically all the combinations of those 3 variables. And then there's distance as sort of like as a vague archetype. The thing about distance is that like you do want to create kind of like a spread of distances, but like I was talking about earlier, it's like people think that they have their distances honed in, and based on some of the research that we've done, a lot of people are not correct about that. But so it's like
Ooh, shots fired.
well, it just is what it is, and it's like we're not going to create like races that are specific to like the actual distance preferences of horses. We're going to try to create, that's where the randomness actually can come in, provided that you do have the options that are like in a spread. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a lot of coverage there, and then like the way that can all work with like the performances based on grades, the performances based on race type, all of these analytics that we're gathering, all of these like dashboards that we're compiling and then transmuting basically into population based race creation should hopefully cover almost all the gaps in the base schedule. And also, one more thing that we're adding to sort of like the archetype considerations is also maidenhood. So it's like one of the problems that you've seen with the schedule recently is basically like maidens have continued to populate, even though the generation zeros are like nobody's running maidens anymore. Maidens cancel all the time, and races would.
I have a horse that's still a maiden. Damn Uncle knows of
I'm
all
sure you
horses.
do. There are
Son of
some
a
maidens, but
bitch.
like regardless, like the actual the way that maidens are populating
Yeah,
is
no, I got you.
yeah, it's not reflective of the actual population of, you know, horses that have not broken their maiden. So that's a modification that's going to happen in place of those maiden races. What'll be generated is an informed mixture of handicaps, allowances, and grade restricted stakes races. Those are going to have an informed breakdown based on the populations that can like win them, can participate in them, period. So those are I think that's going to be like just a way healthier, better, and more dynamic balance coming out of that. And then there's one of the biggest gaps and one of the biggest demands that we have are claimers. And so claimers are going to be something that um, claimers are something we've been working on. It's like what I can do now, which is very inefficient and not entirely effective, is essentially that I can I can generate, like I can hand make every single type of claimer basically over a certain period of time and just enter that into the schedule manually. And it takes like all my time and it's not that effective and they don't all fill up and blah blah blah. Over like the last week, Chris developed a way for me to bulk add sort of like a menu of claimers. And the thing about claimers is that there's so many different claiming prices, which by the way we're looking to expand into. Like we've talked about that a little bit in like the schedule czar channel. I don't know, I think that's like not publicly viewable for most people, but it's like
No.
yeah, but it's like, you know, we're talking about like deviating the like sorry, subdividing the claimers more so that there's more price points, more progression in claimers. That's something that people want, but you have to balance any sort of division with population concern, right? Because you want them to fill. So I'm going to be basically, with the power of this tool that Chris made me, I'm going to be creating a moving sort of like every week I'm going to create like I'm going to seek to create a menu of claimers. And I'm going to be very interactive with the community and seeing how they work and like looking at how they're filling up. And I'm going to be trying out progressions week on week using this like sort of bulk edition menu tool that Chris made for me. So it's like there's those, and then the final piece of it in my mind, actually there's two pieces more. There's unrestricted stakes races, which the top of the food chain is really interested in, of course, and they're not generated with any sort of consistency, and they're kind of like they're definitely a miss in the schedule, and that's something that we're looking to create a sort of like a more solidified system for as well. Better more full coverage generation over sort of like smaller epochs, 2-day 3-day epochs. And then the last one is like all of the different race types which we haven't yet integrated. This is like maybe the lowest. This is like this is after we get the base schedule with the current system down better, and we have faith in the way that we've created the schedule at that point. It's like there's all these different race types that we don't even integrate. You know, there's like optional claimers, maiden claimer starters, different types of allowance races, all different types of allowance races with different restrictions and stuff like that. We have the capability for all of those things too. So how we can cover the gaps with the new like built out analytics that we're going to be using to generate the schedule can possibly be like the way that we integrate new race types at that point can be informed by that. So hopefully that answers part one of that question that you asked. I think what were the other parts, like that like breeding. What did he ask about breeding again? Do we have a plan for breeding? Is that what he said?
Is there a goal for breeding? And I think that's more of like you know, where in other games I guess typically the bloodline deteriorates, so it's always the best at the top. Whereas the difference with PFL is you can actually breed up. So I mean there is a goal, you know, in photo finish to kind of, you know, hone in on certain traits of horses that might be the strongest, try to match them with a pair, you know, and breed up from there. Obviously, again, internally on the team, you guys can't really talk too much about that. But yeah, Senor Herbitron, if you jump into Discord, plenty of great resources to talk to about that.
Yes.
But yeah, so he also says...
Can can you expand? Can you mention the other parts of the question again? I want to answer all of it.
Yeah. So will it be a race series for different types of horses? You touched on that. Because basically, so the way, I mean, it's every month, right? We're going to do the championship series, but we're only going to do the virtual Kentucky Derby when it's left dirt. Is that correct?
No, yeah. The virtual Kentucky Derby will be a left dirt race. Okay, but we're going to do.
And every other month is a championship.
There's a different racing. There's a different equally weighted racing series, basically, like like the amount of juice and everything like that. Like we did get some flack for the fact that the virtual Kentucky Derby was like the same payout as say like any other racing series, but it's kind of fair in a way for that was Ian's line there. It was basically the fit, like people that have different archetypes of horses are going they won't win they won't necessarily be competing for the Kentucky Derby. They won't have like that special trophy. They won't have like be able to say that they're Kentucky Derby winners, but they'll still be able to be, they'll have their own prestige in their realm. It's just not tied to the Derby. The Derby is completely, it's a completely authentic, completely sticking to the format of the race and the real format of the race and all that. But yeah, so long story short, there's going to be different racing series for different archetypes, as I discussed earlier what an archetype is in our game, and so you have coverage kind of no matter where you go if you're aiming for the top.
Cool. And yeah, like I said, you kind of touched on different maybe restrictions, requirements that are going to start to get implemented. Because he was asking if a horse with 5 wins would be running against a horse with 1 win in claimers. A lot of times in claiming races, again, depending on where you're racing, if it's Australia or America, depending on whatever. Here in America, we do a lot of, non-winners of 2, 3, whatever. I don't know what route we plan on taking with that. But Mike actually asked a good question because I wanted to know this myself.
I was just answering that,
yeah.
Yeah. So let me hop on that really fast. It's like, so what Mike is proposing it is something that like at a baseline we've considered. We considered basically like, what if we just like create like a fixed schedule where every single race type is attenuated for on a schedule, doesn't change, and you can just enter them. You can enter races or not. We literally provide every single breakdown of everything, right? The problem is that there's not enough population to support that right now, and every single excess race you have in the wrong spot is a potential sort of like a mine. Like if you ever played like Minesweeper or whatever, it's like,
oh yeah,
one extra race between 2 races that would have filled means 3 canceled races essentially. So there is this like balancing act. It's like we do want full coverage with claimers. Like my goal as of creating the claimers menu is to I do want full coverage, but it's just not going to be. It's like different days are going to be different offerings, so that it's like it's like a claim. Like I want it to be like kind of like sliding, but still providing like kind of like the lower price claimers, the middle tier claimers, and the high tier claimers throughout the week on sort of like a progressive cadence, but at the same time providing the options for everything.
right.
But
because that'd be
yeah. So it's like, but you do have to do one of the ways that I'm going to be creating this baseline schedule is like I'm going to be looking at some of the analytics that Richie has built out with Chris and seeing what is even possible there, in terms of like what even could fill in terms of claimers. Like how many horses are really like available to run these claimers? I'm sure it's kind of more than we think, and hopefully like if the claimer schedule is successful, it'll bring horses out of the woodwork as they realize they have a place, and
right.
people start running them and all that. And that's definitely true. But there is like kind of a give and take. It's not. I don't think it is so simple as literally providing every type of claimer at every price point every day. That's like, like it's so many races every day. It's like because of the amount of differently priced claimers mixed with different archetypes, it just absolutely floods the schedule. It's like you couldn't even even just feasibly scrolling through the race page every day as a casual user, you couldn't even like it'd be way too many races even in that regard.
Right.
And that's not even like the main issue. That's not the core issue. The core issue is that they wouldn't fill essentially. So
Right, and that's something I think about quite a bit. And I was always wondering, I don't know if there would be an easy way to kind of approach this, but let's say we had a 4 furlong left dirt good, and we had a 6 furlong left dirt fast, right? Scheduled, let's say within the same 15 half-hour block. And let's say one has 2, one has 3, right? Now, neither one of those are going to race. They're both going to cancel. I was always thinking some sort of like option when you join the race if you'd be okay with like an auto merge type of feature, where it's like you guys detect that 4 horses have accepted like an auto merge, and it will just take those 2 races and combine them and create a new 4 to 6 furlong event. Because when I request races from you,
so wait,
what
was the difference in those 2 races? Was it right and left turning?
No. They're both the same direction, same surface, but maybe maybe one's maybe one's a good, one's a fast. You know what I'm saying? Or one's a soft, one's a sloppy. Again, basically on the same spectrum. You know what I mean?
It's like the problem. Like where would it normalize out to in that case? Like where would you like just to chase this down? Like where would the weather normalize out to? Like would it like re-roll until like a different thing randomly, or would it like?
Sure, if it takes 2 races that one was 80% chance of raining, one was 60% chance of raining, and re-roll it with a 70% chance of rain and see what happens. Like, I'm just saying, it's I think better than having 2 races cancel if you were to have that type of block. You know what I mean? Where they wouldn't fill. I don't know if that would be an alternative to even potentially think about. My other idea was always, what if we kind of just knock down some of the emphasis on left-right? Because in real horse racing, they don't really know which way they're running. I've actually done some research on this.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to like change like that's like a
I know you can't. I know you can't change it. But I'm just saying
that's like too big of a shift for the.
That's too big of a shift. I would agree. That's like extreme.
We
that's
really want
extreme.
we really want to avoid changing race math. That's like absolutely something that we don't. We want to maybe we tweak it very slightly, but like there's a consideration here that I think I think people don't necessarily think about this because it's like people kind of take this for granted in a way, but there's like sort of an element of like, and it is what it is, adaptation that people have to kind of make. It's like things not being exactly ideal or things not shifted. It's like you have to adapt to the way the game is. It's like the difference in a game. Like nowadays, everybody's so used to games updating constantly and like constant updates, constant changes, patches, et cetera, et cetera. But like back in the day, it's like people did just adapt to what the game was. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't change things. I'm not saying we don't need to adapt to things, but there's 2 ways that adaptations occur. And one of them is adapting the player strategy to the game. So constantly shifting the game to the players is not necessarily the best move, just as much as constantly shifting the players to the game is not necessarily the best move. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I got you. Like I said, that was an extreme take, to be honest. I do want to. Mike had a good follow-up question. I wanted to touch that. Gooch, what do you really make of the schedule right now, man? What's your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking. So one, right now, when we say filters for anything, like if I want to search whether it's race type for a horse or just sorting my own stable, I create filters. Those filters live on whatever client device I'm using. What if instead of it being client side, it was stored server side, and you were able to set like horse preferences? I think that would at least potentially.
You're not the first person to ask for that, for sure.
Yeah. What I'm thinking from third time side though is if you are setting preferences for each horse, then you guys would be able to glean some information off of what type of races people are actually looking for. Because right now you can look at historical data and say, yeah, these races are filling up or these races aren't. But you may not necessarily know exactly what people want their races to be or how they want to race their horses. So if I could go into a horse and I could set a preference, I'll race in, these are all the races that I want to look for, allowance races that are, S minus A plus an A or whatever. Set the distance preferences, I'll do 9 or 10 furlongs and I'll do anything that's 60% or greater chance of rain because my horse prefers soft. So I do that. And then if I set that, one, it could update so that when I click on my find recommended races, it would automatically kind of filter based off of the preferences that I have set for that horse. So I don't have to go in there and create.
That's interesting that's interesting that you bring this up because it's actually something that Richie was talking about because that's something that Richie was like kind of interested in. I'm not exactly, I can't tell you exactly where we settled on that, but basically having users self-flag their horses kind of gives us like interesting information to play with in terms of like if we wanted to use a dynamic schedule generation mechanism similar to Oracle that's based off of how players have tagged their own horses. You know, it's like, I think that my horse is this, so I want this. And it's kind of like, you know, like back in World of Warcraft, you'd like queue up for something. So it's like, when is this
Yes.
available? Please put me in this.
And that's exactly what I was thinking with queues. So I can check all of the preferences, and I can check a box of like auto enter me into races, because kind of what Mo mentioned earlier. If I have my horse in a race and Mo has a very similar horse and he's entered in a different race that are, you know, it's a 1 furlong difference, and his race is 60% chance of rain, mine is 80% chance of rain, for example. As long as it falls within the parameters that we've set for our horses, and there's a box check that says auto enter me into races for, you know, these race types. If my race gets canceled and I have that checked and his race falls into the parameters that I have set to auto queue for my horse, my race gets canceled and it will automatically enter it into the next available race that meets those parameters. And then you'll get bigger pools. You know, maybe there would have to be maybe you'd have to put in some equity or something like that, because if the price of the race if there's a huge delta in the price of the race, it goes from, let's say, a maiden to whatever. But, you know, if I set that ahead of time and I'm accepting of that, maybe it could even show you like, here's all the potential races. When I sort for it, it would show me, here's all the potential races that you would enter into. And maybe I enter into, you know, whether it's creating a tier or an auto queue or something like that. But if my race got canceled and immediately went to Mo's, that might be 3 horses from my race going into, you know, 3 horses in his race. And suddenly you have a pretty competitive field of 6 horses instead of 2 horses, 2 races canceling.
Yeah, definitely a good idea. I'm glad that I'm glad that we're streaming and you are discussing this. Like, this is basically something that I can just show Richie, you know, when next Richie and I have a conversation and be like, Richie, what do you think about this? Is like a community member thoughts on this process, kind of similar to yours. Like, what do you think about it? And maybe we can go further with it. We can explore it, chase down the implications of it, because it is good. It's definitely a nice system. It's like priority 0 right now. Make the schedule way better than it is now. Okay, that's like priority 0. All features like that, like once the schedule, it's like everything that is like the base layer, and it must be better, and things must kind of spring from that to some extent. But it's like that system is definitely, or something like that, I could definitely imagine that being in the game in the future. But I'm not, you know, of course I'm not promising anything, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, because
that's an excellent idea.
The way I think about it is, if my race cancels, you guys kind of want to create a, you know, that fantasy football or that daily fantasy football type. I know I've heard Ian talk about that several times, of you get in, you pick your race, and you kind of forget about it. You don't have to check in several times per day to make sure that it's set right. So I might set my race, think I'm racing at noon, it gets canceled. I don't check again until 5 p.m. or something, and I may have missed 3 or 4 other races potentially in that time frame that I could have entered into.
So we're missing like, we're missing some action there.
So if it was an app, obviously you could send push notifications. I'm sure there would be an option in there somewhere of send me a notification if my race cancels or something like that.
I think we do, but like that, like I don't even know if we send that notification via email, but I know that we do by inbox if your race cancels. I'm almost positive we do.
Yeah, you do.
Well, that's definitely
cool
awesome.
Cool idea.
Way better than my idea. The only thing I mean, maybe it's almost like a combination, because again, like I'm thinking of merge, because what happens in your scenario, I'm just playing contrarian devil's advocate, you know, in your scenario where the race window is so close, where, like, let's say mine cancels where there's still opening window to join your race, right? Then it would be able to fill it. But what if they are both, you know, 5 minutes off, and both are going to close within that window where both races are going to cancel no matter what? I feel like there would still have to be some sort of like fail-safe there to realize that there could be a race run, and just, you know, slap them together at that point. But I think overall, like, having some sort of filters or like preset thing would easily be a way better idea than what I had. But
like,
I would just worry like in a 5-minute window.
In both of these cases, there's like an element of opt-in. So maybe like the key is to have like you're kind of like you're saying, Gooch, to have like sort of like a collateral wallet or something, you know, where it's just like, I'm willing to eat the delta up to this range. Sign me up for dynamic race merging setting in
Yes.
account.
Exactly.
And then maybe that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I set a threshold basically of I'm willing to enter any race up to 1,200 or 2,000 derby or something like that if it meets these preferences. And I understand that for the average player, for a new player, that might get kind of that might be a little overwhelming for them to be able to set that. But
it's a complicated feature because there's a lot of edge cases in terms of like what can be combined and how they combine too. You know what I mean? It's like it's not so simple. It's just like, oh, we're gonna, because like the example that we discussed earlier, like the it's like, oh well, this is good and this is fast, but otherwise they're exactly the same. Like that's not gonna happen a lot. That shouldn't. First of all, that shouldn't even happen. Kind of period. Like they shouldn't even be close enough that they should not exist close enough to be merged. It would be more like this is left.
But they do sometimes, right now.
They do sometimes. And it's totally a problem. And it's actually something that I've discussed with Chris. Another thing.
That's why I said
thing
right
that we're
now.
trying to get is like I talked to Chris about this today, and he mentioned that he'd actually already been working on this somewhat. But there's like the element of like a sort of like a proximity. It's like I don't think that the way that we generate the schedule, like necessarily understands proximity, and it's actually like proximity in similarity. So it's like it can still generate a race that's like first of all, the Oracle will generate a race like based on if something fills, it's already going to kind of do it again, right? That's like how it works. But like I'm talking about like the bulk addition tools and stuff like that, and even just the baseline schedule configuration like that generates the races that are not Oracle based, like it still totally has the capacity to just place things randomly right next to each other because of that range. It's sort of like the probabilistic way that the schedule is generated has the capacity to do that, which is a problem. So making the Oracle smart enough to kind of know like that there's a certain like reuptake period between
we talked about that, I think.
races.
Didn't we talk about that last week or the week before?
Chris has maybe worked on. I wouldn't be surprised if we talked about it somewhat.
Because in my mind, again, I don't code, stuff like you guys do, but I have, done my share of coding. And for me, in my mind, I'm like, when I drop that race in, I'm thinking before that race even schedules, I'm doing like a reference check 5 minutes out or 10 minutes out in both directions. And if it, comes back as a true, check, I don't post that race, right? Like, I feel like, even some simple, checks like that would even may help alleviate the Oracle doing it automatically.
There's always a difference in like describing the feature as you'd like it and what is kind of like feasible, but it does seem
it's all code though.
It is all code, and we do have I think we do have fantastic devs and stuff. It's a matter of like kind of like time priority as usual. But like it does seem like there's a possibility that we could at least reduce the frequency of like duplicate races. And I comb the schedule periodically, especially when I'm doing like custom races, and as I'm doing this claimer stuff, I'm just going to be all through that schedule page. So I'm constantly looking for little duplicates. If you guys catch like duplicate races far out in the schedule, if you just like feed them to me, it's not your job obviously, but like if you catch them, I'll delete one. So
what about
depending on how far out they are, by the way.
Yeah, what about some sort of flagging system? Like, let's say if we were able to comb the schedule on our own and I don't have to worry about something in Discord or messaging you, like maybe just some sort of like flag that we can click. And then basically, if enough people were to click that, you guys might get... Yeah, flag it as a duplicate, and you guys might get some sort of heads up and maybe even build something where it's automatically like, oh, this is being reported, let me just do a check. Oh, you
don't want that to necessarily be automatic with no approval. Like that kind of feature, but definitely
more than likely not. But
that's another like smart, like probably useful and nice accoutrement feature. Like that's definitely not. I could imagine that being in the game. I just don't. It's like the feasibility of how soon we would do something like that. Not sure. Couldn't tell you. But like,
the problem is
not a bad idea.
Right, because the problem is, because everything that I can give you, whether they're true, false, checks and code, stuff like that, again, this might all sound simple. I might even make it sound simple. When you start talking about other people's code, right, like you just said, you're building it, you guys are building it your way, right? So something that might sound easy for one type of code, when you start layering it into other code, you can just break everything. So I totally understand, like I said, priorities, things like that. But you do have to realize that we had a lot of time to fill tonight. And I'm doing my best to not drop any F-bombs. And I've been taking etiquette classes 3 times a week. All right.
Yeah, we've been keeping it real classy this week. So classy.
Yeah, man. You put your chest hair away.
Gooch.
I'm not dropping F-bombs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all Gooch. You're right.
Yeah,
That's what did it.
Class. Just a
You know,
vibe.
I show up and you guys really like knuckle under, even though my name by itself just kind of sounds like a swear word. It's like PG-13 at least.
Yeah, it's definitely PG-13. It's definitely like Euro Trip, you know. I don't know if that's.
Maybe I should change it. Maybe I should change it to Grundle. That would be like a little
Grundle.
bit more. Yeah.
I've always thought Gooch was a great name. I've always thought it was pretty powerful. Iconic.
David says, remember to subscribe to Mo if you haven't. Well, at least give it a follow. You know, subs do cost money here on Kick, but
no, you got to subscribe.
Follows are free. We do appreciate the follows.
We have 58 viewers. You should have 58 subs. It's just that simple.
58 people in the building. Yo, shout out to the 58. That's sick. Appreciate you guys, man.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Damn, that's sick. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, like I said, we're just trying to give you guys some information. Sometimes, you know, I feel I apologize to him offline all the time. Like, you know, I feel like I've been hanging out with him for so long now. I'm like openly talking to him, and I got to realize that, you know, he probably just wants to tell me to shut the hell up half the time. But, you know, we were having a good time trying to close some
The onus is on me to tell you that, Mo. You know what I mean? Like, I got to tell you that. You know, you just you just do what you got to do, and when it gets to that point, Mo, you know, I'll let you have it, dude. I'll get real, you know.
All right. Well, you let me know when we cross that line, but until then, I'm gonna tow it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, we got 4 minutes here. I'm not gonna keep you guys too much longer after the show. I know you guys got lives, things to do. So I mean, Gooch, what's the actually, no, not tonight. I watched my 90 Day Fiance last night.
Nice. Okay.
So Gooch, what's the game plan going forward, man? We selling, we breeding, what are we trying to do? We're trying to repopulate the earth?
You know, I kind of wanted to see a little bit of the price discovery, as you would have expected. Once there's all these foals out there that they literally can't do anything, it was almost a race to the bottom. A lot of people started listing a lot of horses pretty cheap. So I've kind of been holding on to it because I expect once the racing starts picking back up, and especially like Crown Price started dipping pretty hard because I think people were looking at the return, and as racing went down, people probably started seeing the Crown Price dip down a little bit more too. So I was buying Crown, but I expect once these foals, you know, starting when all of these foals can start racing again, I think that we're going to see that tick up again huge. You're going to start seeing some massive payoffs. You're going to start seeing some really, really good foals. And then I think that you're going to see the price of them kind of come back up. So I've been holding on to them. I probably do need to sell some. I have some listed, but I'm not giving my horses away. You're going to have to, people are going to have to pay what I think is a fair price for them. So I'm not going to race to the bottom. Everyone else can paper hand them all they want.
Yeah, though. I hear you. I know, again, Fib can't really comment too much on that type of stuff. I will say this from my behalf. First of all, shout out to MJ Network for the 5 gifted subs. Appreciate that, brother.
Nice.
Sakis said we need a flag function for stables, like Bigfoot stables. Oh, should I just dox myself? So I mean to check those horses for power-ups. Yeah, actually, Joker's been on a heater, 2 for 3. And also shout out to my my TA here, because I'm always amazed at how nice it bounces on the lines, and I draw these things like a week in advance. But
yeah, it's almost like people have buy orders at specific prices or something.
Yeah, it's always blown my mind. But yeah, you know, I think racing to the bottom is a bad idea. I think some people definitely undervalued some of the foals. I think some people just wanted to recoup some money that they spent either early on or, you know, during betas or even recently. You know, I am one of those people who probably should recover some money. But, you know, it's hard, man, when you're dealing with multiple syndicates, when you're dealing with nice crown stimmies, when you're dealing with a beautiful, you know, racing kickback at the end of the month. I mean, I almost feel like if I take that money out of the ecosystem, I'm like robbing, you know, from the people I like. So, you know, I don't know, man. I'm just constantly dumping it back in. I'm not racing to sell anything. I'm just going to be racing. I got 8 new horses to race here coming up.
I mean,
so
one of the
looking
cool
forward
things,
to it.
One of the cool things about people, you know, unloading horses on the market, I mean, it's definitely kind of like, you know, it kind of ends up being a buyer's market, and a good point to, you know, we did have a bottleneck with the Gen Zeros where it's just like, you know, like entering the game was kind of tough because a lot of the Gen Zeros were just simply taken now there's going to be a lot of like in a market where people want to recoup. There's going to be a lot of foals that are actually like pretty good, solid baseline foals to start to, and you can get in at like at a fairly reasonable price and begin playing. And now what needs to happen is we need to, create the demand essentially for them. So
yeah, I also think
basically
it's
getting
really
getting good foals for cheap, so
I find it pretty interesting to see. I think you're going to see a lot of these foals that have bred that before, for the most part, there's a decent correlation between like the track preferences, the racing track preferences, the direction and stuff like that, and the overall amount of boosts on the ticket. So I mean, if it was high boost, it probably had high numbers in its preferences as well, and it, same is true the opposite direction. Well, now you're going to see some, like I bred a horse that is almost zeros across the board because I was trying to go left turf firm. I didn't get that. So it's right turf firm or right turf soft, I think, but it's like 0.5 or something like that. But the rest of it, like its stats for racing, are going to be high. So I mean, that would almost be similar to like a 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1 type of horse, but then it's 0.5, which we didn't really see with the Gen Zeros. But you're going to see a lot of that with the foals, where they're going to be better racers than it looks like based off of the preferences that you can see.
Totally. There's going to be a lot of interesting racing dynamics and considerations to make at like a deeper level of which races you pick, which horses you pick for those races. Like for our hardcore players, there's going to be a lot to contend with there, and even and for our more casual players, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to steal races. So
oh yeah, I love stealing races. And we do have one more race here coming up. We send it down in progress. And if you guys have any questions in chat for Gooch or Fib, now is the time. If they're lucky, or we're lucky enough, they might stick around and answer some questions. All right, we now join this race in progress. For those of you watching I Love Gucci, here's a horse race. Tarnished Stakes, and it's Galad up top. Then comes Chad, Vagabond there at the rail. Scuba Ringer now flies up on the outside. Super Claims going to round out top of the leaderboard here. Half mile and 50 and change as they shoot down the backstretch in this 9 furlong right turning affair in the dirt. Track is fast and smoke is good for Galad. 2.6 to 1. Showing the way here, 2 lengths over Scuba Ring, who tries to get going here and pick up some ground. Chad there in the rail, sitting with a stalking trip. Vagabond tries to make a move here. Might have clipped heels with Super Claim. Super Claim down at the rail, puts the cape on, flies up, passes into 5th. Scuba Ringer now up top, pokes the nose in front. Galad has a challenge as the announcer looked away for a moment. It's Scuba Ringer and Galad going to battle it out. Galad takes it back by half a length. Now it's Galad up top, Scuba Ringer, and Chad falls back. 3/4 and 115. You know what it means, chat. It's time for the money shot. And it's Galad up top as they hit the top of the stretch and head for home. 200 meters to go. Street lights are on and Mama's calling for Galad. Galad is trying to pull away and make it look easy here past the 8th pole. It's going to be all Galad. I was hoping for some action, but it's going to be a no-brainer here. It's going to be Galad over Scuba Ringer and Chad. 4-5-1, order of finish.
That was a massive wire.
That was a massive wire. I don't even... I can't imagine you guys would ever do this, because it would be so freaking horrible if there was a way for like the jockey to fall off the horse. Because I'm like, man, if that would have happened, I would break something. You know what I'm saying? You're in a big race and like the horse takes a bad step, like real horse racing. But I can't imagine you guys would ever do that.
we have like a catastrophic like injury animation or something.
Oh, I know.
Like somewhere
yeah,
there.
You've done it to me in the beta numerous times. Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't put it to use. Yeah, we need like the kill switch on certain horses, like like they're trying to escape the Matrix and we have to pull them back in.
Well, we don't talk about the Matrix here. All right, we try to avoid the red pill conversation. But yeah, man, that was a good race. That was for some qualifying points, right?
I believe it was for the 3rd-time championship.
Oh yeah,
Congratulations!
68 points on the line.
Congratulations to Big Brain Stables. Looks like the RD division of Big Brain Stables.
Let's see. It was Galad, right? That was the right turf division. They're crossing over. Wait a second. Galad won that race, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
With ease.
Yeah.
My lord. Well, there you go. Turf
Yeah,
horses like the dirt. All right, well, there you go. Chad actually got up to third. I would have actually had my money on Chad looking at this race in the pregame, but maybe the grade, right? Maybe the grade, S horse. So many different angles you can look at, you know. Gooch, have you, I don't really see any questions come in, so I'll let you guys get out of here in a moment, but have you messed around with MJ's handicapping tool? This thing's great for races on the fly, man.
No, I haven't. I really want to get in. I know that he made some tools that I would like to play around with a little bit more. One of the most beneficial tools that I found out about later on down the road was the whole export basically of all the Gen Zero horses. So I had right before Racer's Edge went down, I did an export of all the horses. So I just had a spreadsheet that I was using for my own references, which is basically kind of what's here. So I was just using that. If I had known it was out here, I may have used this a little bit more. But I want to look at the horsepower, and I want to look at the breeding.
He's got this breeder board. He's got the breed barn, which is great, which you can basically match up some horses, and it'll shoot you some graphs down at the bottom, basically telling you like maybe where the horses might overlap, and you might actually catch some common ground, between horses. It's a nice, easy way to visualize it. I don't know why. Normally it used to populate with Steph's Kiss, but now it's got Weekend Moderator in here for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, so you can basically come in here, throw 2 horses in, or throw the female in usually, and then go down here to your stud barn. Actually, it might not populate now, maybe because breeding season's not open. That might be it. But yeah, typically when the breeding season's open, this will populate, and down here you'll have like, basically bar graphs or whatever, or point graphs, and you'll see like, oh, they kind of both like 6 to 7, 6 to 8, and it's really nice. But yeah, MJ's tool. Sorry, good.
Can you also, like, if I select a filly, would I be able to go in and try to look at the whole the breeding barn and pick certain traits? So let's say I was trying to breed left turf firm, and I kind of know what traits I'm looking for. If I had the ability to go in and pick and choose those traits and set, right to, less than 1 star, etc., go through there, and it would show me all of the studs that meet that criteria. That would be pretty cool.
Well, what it normally does is it'll bring up the list, and then you could basically click on like the sorting, so you can see from there, and you can kind of sort it out. I do believe there might be a way to go in here and do like exclude and stuff like that. I'm not quite sure without being able to get into it, but he is in the chat, so that might be even something he could look at doing. The breeder board is kind of cool. And shout outs again to MJ, mjinformatics.com. If you guys do use this, does have a useful donation link. Make sure you help them out. Like I said, I use this quite extensively with the breeding tool, but the race card, in my opinion, is really, I don't want to say the bread and butter, because this whole site's great, but I love this because as someone who likes racing forms and past performances, being able to come in here and just copy and paste an entire field of horses, and it actually ignores everything else, like the 5s, the 4s, and all the other crap that I copied here. It actually ignores everything else except the horse names, and it'll just give you everything in like a little. Yeah, we figured that out by accident on stream. It was hilarious. I was like, what would happen if I just did this, and it just populated the horse, and we were all like, holy crap.
That's awesome.
That's really cool, MJ.
Yeah, this is sick, man. So like from here, you can basically look at who's been running the tightest competition, right? So Fresh Air has been running against 0.65, which I guess would be like a half grade higher comp. So you can kind of take that into consideration when it comes to everything from position to maybe like the fleet figures. Then you can kind of narrow it down. So if it's a 5 furlong race, maybe just narrow it down from 4 to 6. You know what I'm saying? You put the 5 in the middle. Again, there's all different angles you can take. This is the beauty of his tool. This is the beauty of photo finish and handicapping in general. So yeah, I use this really extensively for this comparison tool. And then obviously, yeah, we do have the gap tool. With Gavone and Padre, these guys are doing some insane shit too. I love this site. I love the time rankings. I use the time rankings almost exclusively for everything that I bred. So basically, MJ's tool would give me a beautiful, accurate visualization of how they might match But then if I really wanted to know how good, Balloon Arch looked on the rankings, or how good did, Jupiter look, I could just go in, punch him in, and look at him, every single distance. Where was he here? Where was he here? And you're like, yo, this horse was, top 10 in 3 different distances. Probably a horse I want to breed with, instead of a horse that was like 100. You know what I mean? Even if they were like $10 difference, $25 difference. So, yeah, moral of the story, between MJ's tools and, the gap data, I think we're in really good hands. And before I let everybody go, Fib, was this mentioned anywhere? If you go to the race pages on your page, right?
Okay.
And you go to a horse, I never knew this until yesterday. So I know if you go in the charts, remember I've been saying like filters in here, like filter out, yielding soft, right? So we can get rid of all the data we don't want to look at. I had no idea if you go in the fleet figures, you could actually do that on this. I had no idea. I clicked on it by accident. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, yeah. See, okay. That's
we need this on the other screen.
I knew. See, I must have been, my brain must have not, it wasn't working well last time we were looking at this, because I remember
you told me.
I wrote
the
there were filters, and I wrote the patch notes for the filters, and I even looked at how they worked, but you were just on the wrong screen. And I was just like, wait, where are the filters?
Well, I was on the right screen, but we would need, what I would say is we want the averages.
Yeah,
we want the averages and this in the same exact graph. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I want to be able to see the whiskers, whatever it's called, with being able to now, this and remove good or remove yielding, right?
Yes.
Like the combination of those two is just chef's kiss, right? So, but yeah, I figured this out by accident, and I started thinking, I was like, I wonder if that was Fib was talking about on the show, because you did tell me that.
That was what Fib was talking about, yeah.
And I was like, man, I know, I get lit sometimes, but I was like, I don't see anything that looks like a filter here. So, shout out to me for finding that.
The interfacing, it's clean but also obtuse if you don't know to look for it, I suppose. So
awesome. Well, real quick, I guess anything to shout out, Fib, coming up. Are we ever gonna get the new guys on here, by the way? I'd like to see the new guys out. You know what I'm saying? Mingling with the community a little bit. Are they scared of me? I know Paul came and hung out with us that one time. He's never talked to me again.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. It's up in the air, like how much we want to. It's kind of, there's benefits to being the intermediary between Mount Olympus, myself, and bringing team members on. It's like it's definitely useful to have them on, and they definitely would. There's kind of an element of like that like some of them are just like such devs in their hearts that like if you ask them a question, they might actually just answer it too much. Like more than Ian would want. You know what I mean?
I got you. Okay, okay, I got you. You know what? That's a fair answer.
Yes. But then there's also,
because I will ask qualifying questions and pry the shit out of it. Not even intentionally sometimes. It's not even intentional. It's just because my brain goes in crazy directions.
Because it's literally what you want. Also, it's just like what everybody wants. They want to know. So why wouldn't you ask the question? It makes sense. What I want to shout out is that I'm doing like a little write-up with Ian, just like a little State of the Union, some cool statistics, some kind of glance back at some of the things that we've seen with breeding, the virtual Kentucky Derby, just a bunch of numbers for everybody to feel good about, because actually we do have some excellent numbers, and onward, upward, going to keep on pushing. Look out for these big schedule changes. Look out for a more regular, hopefully effective cadence of claimers. Hit me with your feedback on those. I'm really curious. I'll be constantly asking for what people think about those, how they're running, because I think claimers are huge, and working off of like a better baseline schedule, I think everybody will be happier, and we can move forward with some expanded features, more progression in the schedule, all sorts of awesome things that that we can create. And like Richie has all these awesome ideas too. He's got so much experience doing live ops stuff, so this is just like, it has been like a little bit of a lull between his onboarding and major schedule changes, but they're definitely coming. So, have faith, maintain the course. It's going to be good. I really do think it's going to be a big improvement. So,
I mean, listen, we've sustained a lot. I don't even think there's been that, massive amounts of bumps in the road or anything major, I guess would be a better way to say it. Again, we've had, little hiccups in here, but I think going forward, man, like, yeah, some fine tuning to the schedule, things like that. But yeah, after the launch, after the Derby, everybody was kind of, exhausted. I know everybody kind of took some time and kind of, recharge their batteries, and so it's good to have everybody back on board. So hopefully we can kind of get back to work here, and because like I said, we're already in decent shape in my opinion. Well, I'd say we're in good shape, but we have the potential here, what you guys are doing, to just go into places I don't think people could even fathom right now, because I've yet to show this game to anybody and they're like, that looks dumb. Not a single person has ever said that looks dumb. They might say, hey, it's not my cup of tea right now, but I'll keep an eye on it. And I do want to kind of wrap up here with Gooch, but real quick, this horse Shake 'em Up. I have you guys might see it on Twitter. Buddy Paul of mine, he does real horse racing handicapping on YouTube. Big guy, really cool guy. And he does a show called The Shake Up. And I kept on telling him, like, man, when I get a decent, nice little preference horse that I feel like is worthy of the name, we're going to name a horse Shake 'em Up after you, And now he's like excited. He's getting ready to watch him run. And obviously I'm trying to do the whole, hey, get interested, make an account, run your trainer horse, and now maybe you want to get involved. But hey, I'm sure they know that. But no, they're excited. His community actually was retweeting it and hitting me up like, oh my God, I can't wait to watch him run. So, again, things we can do like this. You guys are just banging it out every day, and I appreciate you, Fib. Gooch, thanks again for coming on, man. Really appreciated you taking some time. It was a pleasure meeting you. I know we've been talking for quite some time, but always nice to, put a face with the text. And any final words here for the community?
No, man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm glad I'm able to get on, talk about this. I know that it's kind of crazy for me to have gone from minting some freaking horses that have puffy shirts and suits on to racing in a game that's doing the virtual Kentucky Derby. I'm sure it's been surreal for the entire team. I know Ian's kind of been at that high level before, and I think he always probably knew that it was going to get to that point someday. But so many NFTs, so many things just go to zero, or these, I don't know if I'd say delusions of grandeur, but there are teams that have these huge plans that have just never been there before, and they're not able to get there because they don't realize how tough it is when we're not in a crazy bear market where everything, just absolutely prints, and they have to deal with a lot of major downturns, and they weren't prepared for it. So that's got to be really tough. So it's super cool to see a project that you buy into early, that you're really proud of, and you really like the founder. I mean, ever since Ian got on and was, playing the guitar as he's doing airdrops, airdropping the fillies, and watching Ian go through that, I've just loved it. I mean, I've always felt comfortable that no matter what, this project was going to be successful. Even if I don't print money from it, but that it wasn't going to be a complete flop, because this is not a team that doesn't know what they're doing, that just kind of made some pictures and then decided later on that they were going to build a game around it. There was always a plan, and there was always a strategy. And I like that they haven't wavered and kind of go off the rails to chase the meta or anything. I mean, we see that a lot of, people decide, oh, we're going to mint on Bitcoin. We were this close to reaching our goal, and now we're going to kind of go off somewhere else because that's where the whole market's going. It's been really nice that within a year they had a partnership with Kentucky Down, or Churchill Downs. Sorry, not Kentucky Downs. I think that's different. That's probably a whiskey or something.
Kentucky Downs.
Kentucky Downs. So yeah, it's been great. I know that in the Night Crew DAO, it's kind of hard because it's difficult to plan a time that you're going to race your horse to get everyone on that works across, multiple time zones for everyone. But it has been fun the few times that we've been able to all get into Discord, be in voice chat, watch the races. We've had a good time doing that. Everyone's pretty excited. Even, with the summer, a lot of people are out doing things, touching grass, whatever. And sometimes I'm like, okay, are people even still interested in what I'm doing? And then I'll put out some vote, and everyone's like, yeah, let's go. Let's try to race at high levels. Because when we were breeding our horse, Baltimore, we decided, I was like, well, do we want to try and just, keep prices low, or do you guys want to try and compete at higher levels and breed up with, an S tier horse? And everyone's like, let's go S tier, man. Let's try to get into that Kentucky Derby. So it was cool to still see the support, even if we're not able to get on and talk about it. But we've had a really good time. I would highly encourage, if anyone's in any other projects, especially with foals being as cheap as they are, it's a lot of fun to get in, talk about it, get some other people interested. maybe get some people out there betting. You know, we put some bets on the virtual Kentucky Derby as night crew, and that introduced a little bit more interest in the race overall. So we've had a good time, and it's definitely.
Did you guys win, by the way? Did you guys make out?
No.
Did you guys?
No,
nothing hit. Okay,
we didn't, but it's all good. We would have posted if we did.
Okay.
Hey, well, you're always the next one. That's gambler's fallacy, right? You're always gonna hit the next one.
Yeah, loved having you on, Gooch. Loved chatting with you, dude, as always.
Yeah, this was great. And just real quick for what Gooch was talking about, MJ did an interview with an AMA right before the breeding, right? If I'm not mistaken, that was right before the breeding.
Yeah,
the breeding AMA.
Ian.
With Ian, right? And that way he went into the story of like, when he sat down in his chair at night and he was talking about, starting up the racing game and taking money and moving it from here. And every time he earned money, he was putting it right back in. Like, I've never heard that story before. So if anybody in chat, make sure you guys are following MJ. Follow him over on Twitter. Follow him over here on Kick and Twitch. On Twitch, though, I think YouTube as well. He actually has that video posted, and I highly advise everybody to watch that, because if you don't already think that, Ian, Fib, Chris, Paul, and the rest of these guys don't mean business, you'll know exactly what they're up to just hearing that story, because the story is incredible, the game's incredible, the platform is awesome, and I absolutely look forward to doing this week in and week out with you guys. Fib, thanks again for coming on, brother. Appreciate you.
Hey,
Gooch,
good stuff.
you're the man, and I will catch you guys next week. Peace.